Shalom, did you know that studies show that 99% of Orthodox rabbis, Messianics, and Hebrew root leaders doesn't know the biblical definition of sin according to Moses? Unfortunately, studies show that 99% of Messianic leaders and Hebrew root leaders doesn't know the biblical definition of sin according to Moses. They're happy with the verses that they use in the New Testament, but ending with the behavior that they don't know and they really don't care. When in reality, the biblical definition of sin according to Moses is the root of all types of sin. For the 1% of Messianic and Hebrew root leaders that does know what sin according to the New Testament is, this is the verse that they use. 1 John 3:4, King James, whoever commits sin also commits lawlessness, and sin is lawlessness. NIV, everyone who sins breaks the law. In fact, sin is lawlessness. New Living Translation, everyone who sins is breaking God's law, for all sin is contrary to the law of God. English Standard Version, everyone makes a practice of sinning, also practice lawlessness. Sin is lawlessness. The word law in Greek is nomia. Nomia means instructions, and instructions in Hebrew means Torah, later translated in English as law. The word law can distract the believer because anytime a person reads or hears that word in any type of way, the first thing that comes to their mind is blue and red police lights. That could put a negative on the person's mind, skipping the importance of the word law. Most Messianics and Hebrew root leaders use the word law as just the 10 commandments, including the weekly Shabbat, the feast, and eating kosher. Anything outside this fence is sin. For an example, smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, casual drinking, letting your kids watch rated R movies, or what doesn't fit their personal theology of sin. The proper way of reading 1 John 3:4 is, everyone who sins breaks the Torah of the Creator, for all sin is contrary to the Torah. But most Messianics and Hebrew roots leaders doesn't realize that John is quoting the Torah verbatim, and they don't know where, and they really don't care. So where in the Torah that John is quoting? It's in the book of the Torah that most Messianics, Orthodox Jews, and Hebrew roots leaders doesn't read because they don't really understand. The Torah teaches us that truth cannot be told through one witness. One must need two or more. So let's search the Torah to find two witnesses of the biblical definition of sin according to Moses and understand where John is quoting. The two witnesses for truth of the biblical definition of sin according to Moses and where John is quoting in the Torah is Leviticus 4:1 and Leviticus 5:15, procedures for sin and guilt offering.
Chapter 4. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Give the Israelites the following instructions for dealing with those who sin unintentionally by doing anything forbidden by the Lord's commands." Then the Lord said to Moses, "If any of the people sin by unintentionally defiling the Lord's sacred property, they must bring to the Lord a ram from the flock as their guilt offering. If any of them sin by doing something forbidden by the Lord, even if it is done unintentionally, they will be held responsible. When they become aware of their guilt, they must bring to the priest a ram from the flock as a guilt offering. This is a guilt offering, for they have been guilty of an offense against the Lord."
The biblical definition of sin according to Moses means if you're walking in righteousness and you happen to break any of the Creator's commandments or against your neighbor, accidentally or unintentionally, you have sinned and you're guilty of that sin. And when you become aware of that guilt, you have to confess that sin. This is when the believer must know all the Creator's commandments from Mount Sinai of Exodus all the way to Deuteronomy. To grow in more knowledge and wisdom about sin according to Moses, you need to train yourself on all the Creator's commandments from Genesis to Deuteronomy. The blood covenant God made with Abraham, the blood covenant with Israel at Mount Sinai, the Creator's criminal justice system for fair treatment of slaves and servants, personal injury, restitution, protection of property, laws of social responsibility, Sabbath Holidays, the 3 annual feasts, the tabernacle of Moses, the 5 levitical offering systems for making atonement for sin and guilt, to free will burnt offerings for the rich, middle, and poor, to free will food offerings and thanksgiving offerings that teaches us proper worship and behavior, and the Creator's angel to lead you in the way. The way the Creator's offering system to make atonement for sin and guilt is a perfect way for the price you pay in life when you sin against the Creator's commandments and your neighbor, and the price you pay starts off with your pockets. Some judgments can leave you homeless, incarcerated, and sometimes your life. These sin and guilt offerings and making restitution up to 20% can be very expensive. It can easily bankrupt a person so much you'll be in debt to the Creator for the rest of your life of no way of paying him back. We learned this in our lives today of the price we pay when we sin against our neighbor. Do you think a person will ever speed again after multiple tickets and then they finally get a $1,000 ticket? Most likely, a person will not steal or lie or any type of crimes after spending 5 to 10 years in jail. Hopefully, these judgments will make a person not sin against a neighbor by not stealing, lying, or testifying falsely without proper investigation, or judging a person by his nationality, either rich, middle, or poor class.
Chapter 5. If any of the people are called to testify about something they have witnessed, but they refuse to testify, they will be held responsible and be subject to punishment. Or if they touch something that is ceremonially unclean, such as the dead body of an animal that is ceremonially unclean, whether a wild animal, a domesticated animal, or an animal that scurries along the ground, they will be considered ceremonially unclean and guilty, even if they are unaware of their defilement. Or if they come into contact with any source of human defilement, even if they don't realize they have been defiled, they will be considered guilty as soon as they become aware of it. Or if they make a rash vow of any kind, whether its purpose is for good or bad, they will be considered guilty even if they were not fully aware of what they were doing at the time. When all of the people become aware of their guilt in any of these ways, they must confess their sin and bring to the Lord as their penalty a female from the flock, either a sheep or a goat. This will be a sin offering to remove their sin, and the priest will make atonement for them. Chapter 6. And the Lord said to Moses, Suppose some of the people sin against the Lord by falsely telling their neighbor that an item entrusted to their safekeeping has been lost or stolen. Or suppose they have been dishonest with regard to a security deposit, or they have taken something by theft or extortion. Or suppose they find a lost item and lie about it, or they deny something while under oath, or they commit any other similar sin. If they have sinned in any of these ways and are guilty, they must give back whatever they have taken by theft or extortion, whether a security deposit, or property entrusted to them, or a lost object that they claimed as their own, or anything gained by swearing falsely. When they realize their guilt, they must restore the principal amount plus a penalty of 20% to the person they have harmed. They must then bring a guilt offering to the priest, who will present it before the Lord. This offering must be a ram with no physical defects, or the animal's equivalent value in silver. The priest will then make atonement for them before the Lord, and they will be forgiven.
The Creator holds his priests and kings to the highest standard of behavior and obedience to the Torah. Understand the weight of sin. Remember, if an Israelite sins by lying, God will punish that Israelite for that sin. However, if a priest or king commits that same sin, the priest and king will suffer more divine punishment than the Israelite. This is why when we read 1 John 3:4 and James 2:10, they all sum it down that sin is contrary to the Torah of the Creator.